I want to talk to you guys very briefly about spiritual spouses and spiritual children. So, whenever we think of spiritual spouses, typically if you're having a dream where you're romantically involved with someone, or you're seeing yourself engaging with someone in a romantic relationship, or you're having relations with someone in a dream, you're likely dealing with an incubus or succubus spirit, which is also known as a spirit spouse. Now, we've heard it commonly said that these spirits are very jealous. They're jealous for you and they don't want you to be with anybody. But I think the correct word to use is envious, because jealousy is correlated with fear of losing something, and envy is not wanting somebody to have something. You just don't want them to have it. It's more deeply, it's more parallel, I would say, with like iniquity. But jealousy and envy are slightly different. Jealousy is fear of losing something, and envy is just basically, I don't want you to have it. I want what you have. I don't think you deserve to have it. You have to understand that these things, these spirits, they come to kill, steal, and destroy. They will try to destroy your life. They'll try to keep you from fulfilling your destiny. And I want to remind you something. And I think it was Matthew chapter 22, verse 30. I believe, Jesus was explaining to the Pharisees about spiritual, who's going to marry who whenever they make it to heaven. And Jesus made the comment that spirits do not marry. He's like, spiritual beings, like angels, do not marry, nor are they given in marriage. And so you have to understand that these beings, they don't marry, but you have to understand what marriage means. It means that you are yoked with someone. So whenever you're intimate with someone, when you have sex with someone, you become one with that person. These demons, because that's essentially what they are, they're unclean spirits. When they become one with you, you're one with that unclean spirit. That unclean spirit likely can be the root of a lot of different types of sins and iniquities. Now I want to tell you how these things come about. So you're typically going to inherit, I don't want to say inherit, but you're going to get a spirit spouse one of a few different ways. One is through sin and iniquity. So if you're watching X-rated movies, that's sexual immorality is a common way to receive them. Generational curses. So sometimes they're riding on the generational DNA. So you may inherit them from your mother or your father. Or witchcraft. Sometimes witches, they will send these things to you to try to steal the things that you have, the blessings, not your destiny, but your blessings. They'll try to steal things from you and bring it back to them in order so that you could, so that you would basically be in an impoverished state. So these things come to try and destroy your life. So if you see yourself having a good time with someone in your dream, romantically, relationally, understand that it is not actually a good time. Your life is going to be a direct indicator of what's going on spiritually. So if you're having these great dreams spiritually, but your life is suffering, you need to break it. Now, the open door that typically these things come in through is sin and iniquity. It always comes down to that. If you're dealing with generational curses, you need to break those. But oftentimes, again, I say, and from my personal experience, I've seen it often come through witchcraft, and I'll see it come through sexual immorality. Those are two of the biggest ones I've seen it come through. So spiritual children. Now, I know in scripture, so if you see yourself pregnant or having spiritual children, understand that these are not just, this demon is not trying to have this happy family with you. These all have spiritual meanings to them. They all have spiritual meanings. In fact, in Psalm 7, chapter 7, between verses 12 to 16, somewhere in there, it talks about giving birth to iniquity. It also mentions it in Isaiah chapter 59, the beginning of chapter 59, and James 1:15. And I really like the way that James 1:15 have it, and I actually have it pulled up right here, and I'm going to read it to you. And this is what they say about being pregnant. And this is, remember, the Bible is a spiritual book. Okay, so in James 1, we're going to start at 1:13. Let me find it. Okay, and this is the ESV translation. And he says, "Let no one say when he is tempted, I am being tempted by God." And this is verse 13. "For God cannot be tempted with evil, and he himself tempts no one. But each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. Then desire, when it has conceived, gives birth to sin. And sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death. If you see yourself in your dreams with full-grown children or bigger children, that means there's an open door in your life somewhere. There's a sin in your life that is well rooted. And we see often that people will pray these, burn these spiritual children by fire. You have to kill the root of it. You have to kill the root. That's like basically taking, if you have a yard full of weeds, cutting off the weeds. You have to get to the root. The root is sin and iniquity. There's no curse without a cause. I know some of you guys are not going to agree with me on this, but there is no curse without a cause. That is scripture. It's scripture. And so I want you to understand that if you're dealing with spiritual spouses and spiritual children, there's an open door. It's likely due to sin and iniquity of the spiritual spouses. That is the biggest problem. It's going to come through sexual immorality. It's going to come through an open door that you have somewhere. Generational curses. It can be on the DNA, your bloodline, or witchcraft. You can have people sending them to you. Now you may think, how can a witch or somebody send an unclean spirit to me? Because you have an open door. Because there's some sort of sin in your life. That's why you may live a prayerless life. Prayer is your direct communication with God. So if you're not talking to God and if you're not getting these revelations, you're not going to be able to overcome these things. So I want you to understand that if you want to break the yoke of spiritual spouses in your life, spiritual spouses and spiritual children in your life, you're going to have to break the yoke of sin. And I understand, I can hear some of you guys now that you're covered by grace. We are forgiven. Grace does not give you the permission to participate in sin. Grace does not permit you to do whatever you want to do. Grace is there for whenever you fall short. Whenever you fall short, grace is there to cover you. But you have to try. You can say, I'm covered by God, so I'm going to go do this, and this. These all go against his will, but I'm going to do it because I have grace. It is not a permission to sin. It is not. So don't abuse his grace. Understand that if you want to break the yoke of spiritual spouses and spiritual children in your life, you have to get to the root. If you're participating in any type of sexual immorality, by self-pleasuring, by touching yourself, by watching things that you should not watch, by fantasizing the things that are in your head. A lot of times, whenever God took out an entire group of people, specifically the Israelites, whenever he dealt with them, he said it's because of their thoughts, because they had these unclean thoughts in their head and in their hearts. And so if you're having thoughts that are unclean, if you're fantasizing about what it's going to be like when you're in a relationship or when you're married, or this person doing this and that to you, like if you're having these unclean thoughts, then that is enough for the enemy to come in and attack you. You have to understand that your mind is powerful. It's spiritual. We live a very spiritual life. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. We're having a human experience. We're spiritual beings first. And so you have to understand that the things that you think, the things that you feel, your emotions, they're going to impact how things happen to you spiritually. And your spiritual life is going to manifest physically. If your life is falling to shambles, then you need to deal with it on a spiritual level. You need to seek God for revelation. That's the first step. Because if you do not know what that open door is, God, he says if you seek wisdom, he will give it to you to gladly. He's not going to withhold it. He will give it to you. So if you seek wisdom, ask him and he'll give it to you. If you want to know what's going on, what the open door is, and a lot of times we already know, or sometimes we don't. But I pray for you right now that God will reveal those things to you. I understand how terrorizing and terrifying those things can be, those dreams, especially when it happens every single night. And understand that whenever these unclean spirits, whenever they have relations with you and they leave their deposit, that deposit they leave in you is iniquity. It's more sin. It's defilement. I'll say that. It is defilement. It is not that they're jealous and they want to hold you and they just want a family with you and all they wanted was love. These things hate you with a seething passion. They're not capable of love. They're unclean spirits. They do not know love. Only God is love. Only God is the source of love. Only good things come from him. They're not capable of love. So don't fix yourself to think you're happy. This spiritual being, this unclean spirit is giving you gifts, and he's put you in a house, and you have all these children now, and you have this big happy family. That is not what that is. So I pray that this message resonates with somebody. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see similar content, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Blessings, everybody.